Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the RDX Sports Podcast. I'm Simon Head, and what a weekend we just had. UFC 324 kicking off the Paramount Plus era for the UFC in 2026. T-Mobile Arena was absolutely packed to the rafters. It was a great night of fights and an incredible way to get the year properly up and running. We'd seen some shows leading in to this weekend, but when the UFC get going, that's when you know that mixed martial arts is properly up and running for the year, and the UFC's first show of 2026 did not disappoint. Let's run down the full results and give you the last word on UFC 324. All right, where else can we start but with the main event of the evening? Interim lightweight title, the vacant interim lightweight title on the line. The belt was instituted, of course. Ilia Topuria having to take a leave of absence to deal with some personal matters away from the sport, meaning there's a gap at the top of the division. We now have a man with a belt at the top of 155 pounds. His name, Justin the Highlight Gaethje. The former interim champion is now a two-time interim champion. He defeats Paddy Pimblett over 5 rounds after a grueling war that went the full 25 minutes, 48-47, 49-46, 49-46 on the judges' scorecards. Personally, I scored it 48-47 to Justin Gaethje, but my goodness me, what a role Paddy Pimblett played in this fight. I think as the fight started to wear on and Justin Gaethje started to land some really heavy leather on Paddy Pimblett, there were a lot of people probably watching around the world, and certainly lots of people in T-Mobile Arena thinking it's just a matter of time before Paddy gets knocked out. And that line that he likes to come out with about Scousers don't get knocked out was going to come back to haunt him. Well, guess what? It didn't, because Paddy took absolutely everything Justin Gaethje could throw at him, which was quite a lot in that 25 minutes. He took some hellacious shots and somehow just kept coming back, kept pressing forward, kept trying to make things happen. Had plenty of success on the feet with his own strikes as well. Doesn't strike with the same level of concussive power of someone like Justin Gaethje. If he did, he may well have won the fight himself, because Gaethje got hit a lot in this fight. But if you look at the two men's faces at the end of the 25 minutes, you could see the difference between a man who hits as hard as Justin Gaethje and another mere mortal who happens to be very good at mixed martial arts. Paddy Pimblett proved he belongs among the very best in the world at 155 pounds, but it also showed that maybe there are a couple little wrinkles to his game that need to be tightened up before he fights at championship level again, which he undoubtedly will at some point, I am sure. Justin Gaethje, though, absolutely brilliant. Did what we expect to see from a Justin Gaethje fight. Pushing forward constantly, throwing heavy stuff, not really giving Paddy Pimblett much room to breathe. The one thing he didn't use a lot of were his leg kicks. He used them a lot in his early career, was really, really successful with them. Seems to have kind of abandoned them a little bit in recent fights, which is a strange one. He's focusing more just on his boxing, really. And that's winning him fights. But I think he mixed a few kicks in, which was good. But I think if he really mixes kicks in more, he's one of the better kickers in the UFC lightweight division, certainly from a leg kick perspective. So I wonder whether that might become part of his game as he gets ready for someone like Ilia Topuria, who he would be hoping to face next when Topuria eventually is free to come back. But good performance from Justin Gaethje. It was a Justin Gaethje performance. Justin Gaethje doing Justin Gaethje type things. He did it for 25 minutes. Gas Tank looked phenomenal and deservedly got the nod on the judges' scorecards. There was no one crying robbery at the end of this fight. On the flip side, Paddy Pimblett looking absolutely battered and bruised by the end of the fight. Wouldn't be surprised if he's got some sort of facial damage in terms of like orbital bone damage and things like that. He looked pretty messed up by the end of that fight. But you can't question the heart and spirit of the man. I know not everybody is a Paddy Pimblett fan. A lot of people are, but from a pure fighter standpoint, he went in there and really did show the world what he's all about as a fighter. From a technical standpoint, we saw what he can do, but from a heart standpoint, you only really learn those sorts of things when fighters get dragged into deep waters. And that's exactly what happened with Paddy this weekend, and I think he did himself proud. It was just unfortunate he was in there with a better guy on fight night, and he ended up losing the decision. Talking about the sort of the tactical side of things, Dana White even commented on it in the post-fight press conference. Having started out, and he made clear all week he wanted to knock out Justin Gaethje and was very confident in being able to do so. But as the fight starts to wear on, and you're not knocking out Justin Gaethje, and if anyone looks like they're going to get hit with a knockout shot, it's you. It's probably time to start mixing up the game plan just a little bit. And for me, and we spoke on this podcast, I was talking with Alex Patel, and we both agreed that when you're in a championship fight, if there's a clear path to success, you're normally best off going down that route rather than doing it the difficult way. Paddy picked the difficult way on Saturday night, and he lost, and he took a bit of a pasting during the fight. Could he have won the fight on the ground? Yes, I think he could have. The problem was he didn't really create openings for takedowns during the fight, or more's the point, he didn't look like he was trying to create openings for takedowns. He just looked like he wanted to strike. My thought process was that he was saying everything that he was saying leading in because he wanted to get Gaethje comfortable in the fact that this would be a striking matchup, and then Paddy would then pivot, close the distance, do what he does so well, get the body lock, get the takedown, and then work to the back for a submission and get the finish by rear naked choke. That was the path that I thought was the best path to success for him. And even in his corner, Paul Rimmer, his coach, was almost begging him to go for takedowns from pretty much the end of the third round, heading into the fourth, and then certainly into the fifth. It sounded like there was a little bit of frustration perhaps in the corner that he wasn't really doing that. And for obviously, there's only one guy in there fighting, and it's not as easy as just saying, oh, okay, I'll do this then, but I think Paddy fought Justin Gaethje at Justin Gaethje's game. I think if they did that fight again, I would like to think that Paddy would take a slightly different approach, and it would be a very different kind of matchup. So very interested to see just how much Paddy learns from that and how he tweaks that game moving forward. Fighting against these absolutely top draw, elite level opponents, I think you need to lean on what you do best. You need to be good everywhere. If you're not good everywhere, then you're toast. But Paddy showed that he can stand and strike with someone like Justin Gaethje and survive. But he did lose, and he lost because he wasn't able to mix up his game, I think, the way that we have seen him do in the past. I think the way he fought against Chandler, for example, was perfect. He did plenty of good stuff on the feet, but he also transitioned well. And I think it was those transitions that were maybe missing. Maybe it was just because he couldn't get the opportunities. Gaethje was just too compact and didn't offer him those opportunities. But it was slightly surprising that we didn't see Paddy overtly trying for takedowns or to close the distance a bit more in rounds 4 and 5 in particular. But what a fight. And both guys come out with immense credit. Justin Gaethje obviously comes away with championship gold around his waist. For the third time in his UFC career, he won the interim lightweight title a few years back. He then won the BMF title, of course, as well. And now he's back with the interim lightweight belt. Natural next fight for him, obviously, would be Ilia Topuria, but we have no idea what the timeline is for Ilia Topuria. The next highest rated contender is the number 1 contender, Arman Tsarukyan, who was sat at ringside, looking decidedly nonplussed about the whole thing. Did a post-fight interview where he looked thoroughly miserable. He's someone who needs to be in that mix. And I think that whatever purgatory he's found himself in over the last 6 to 9 months or whatever it is, I think it's time for that to pass and for Arman Tsarukyan to be thrust in there now. Whether he fights Justin Gaethje next, I don't know. Maybe that's a fight for Paddy next. Who knows? We just do not know. But what we do know is that we have an interim champion, and his name is Justin Gaethje. Delivering the highlight in a career that he's admitted himself is coming to a close quite soon. So Congrats to him, and all kudos and credit to Paddy Pimblett for just hanging tough and taking it all the way to the final bell. He'll obviously take some time to heal up. March might be a little bit too soon to ask for him to come back. I don't think he's necessarily going to come back and headline a fight night card at the O2. I would imagine we're probably going to see someone like the Rome Murphy headline a card there. We shall see. But it would probably make sense for that to happen. So I think we probably won't see Paddy maybe till the summer, maybe till after the summer. We'll have to see. He's had a pretty busy schedule, so we'll see what all happens with him. But great main event. Justin Gaethje defeats Paddy Pimblett. Unanimous decision, 48-47, 49-46, 49-46. Justin, the highlight, Gaethje is your new interim lightweight champion. All right, the co-main event, Sean O'Malley taking on Song Yadong. Two guys at 135 pounds, desperate to get into championship contention. For Song, looking to get up there for the very first time in his career, in great form. Some really impressive performances in the Octagon leading in. Sean O'Malley has been to the mountaintop, been toppled, tried to make it back with an instant rematch against Merab Dvalishvili, and then came off second best again. Had to take a step back, lick his wounds, back to the drawing board, and then come back. This was the comeback fight against Song Yadong, and Song gave him a pretty stern test over 3 rounds. However, Sean O'Malley found that extra gear, that championship quality, the thing that you want to see from a truly elite fighter when his back's against the wall. The fight was 1-1 on the scorecards, I think, for most people heading into that third round. O'Malley turned up the heat in the third round, landed some really good stuff. He always very crisp in his striking, but Song gave him plenty of problems as the fight went on. But I think O'Malley edged the first round, which was pretty close. Song took the second round pretty clearly, I thought, and the pressure was on going into the third. Who wanted it most? Who really could impose themselves in that final 5 minutes to get the job done? It was Sean O'Malley. Great performance from him, and he's got to be right in there, right? Petr Yan is the new champion. He holds a win over Petr Yan. So we'll see what happens with that. With a rematch, that could certainly happen. I would imagine we might see Yan versus Merab first. So it really depends. O'Malley will probably sit and wait. Why fight again when you've got a title fight pretty much in the bag? It was interesting hearing him talking after the fights during the post-fight show. If it's Yan, he's all in. He wants the rematch with Yan. He wants the belt. If Merab wins the belt, he seemed unsure that he either he's unsure about doing the fight. Maybe it's too close because he's fought twice quite recently. Maybe he feels he needs more fights before he can really get in there with Merab again. I don't know. Or he just feels like the UFC might not want to book that fight. But he seemed reticent to sort of call for that. So, yeah, I'll take Merab if it's Merab. So we'll see. But Sean O'Malley is a star. We heard it from the crowd reaction when he walked into the Octagon. And he produced a star, the sort of performance you expect of one of the top stars in the UFC. Wasn't a finish, but it was a really mature performance and one that has put him right back in the mix at 135 pounds. Sean O'Malley, The Sugar Show, back on top again. All right, also on the card was a heavyweight bout between Waldo Cortes-Acosta and Derek Lewis. How would this fight turn out? This could have gone really one of two ways. This was either going to turn into an absolute slugfest that finished very abruptly with someone staring up at the ring lights, or it was going to be a little bit of a dud, a little bit of a slow-paced, low-volume plod through the rounds that maybe would have gone to the scorecards. It felt, sadly, like we were on the way to the latter until something happened with Derek Lewis in the second round. He did get clipped with a punch, but it didn't seem like the sort of punch that would unduly trouble a veteran heavyweight like Derek Lewis. Certainly wasn't a loaded power shot from Waldo, but it caught Lewis off balance, and when he went to put his foot down, it slipped from under him, and he fell back, and he had fallen to the canvas earlier in the fight, and was a bit slow to get up, but was basically okay. But this time he didn't get up. Waldo followed him to the mat and just hammered him with shots until eventually the referee waved the action off at the 3:14 mark of the second round. It means Waldo is on a great win streak, or a great period of form, let's say, because there is one defeat in there. He's won 5 of his last 6, with his last 5 fights prior to this one all taking place in 2025, which is an insane schedule for anybody. But for a heavyweight in the UFC, mental. So all kudos to the Salsa boy, Waldo Cortes-Acosta. I said on X at the time, give him Cyril Gane next. If Cyril needs a fight, and he might need to, let's have Waldo in there with him. Why not? It's a new face to the division. Someone who might be a bit of a tricky customer for Big Cyril to deal with. Thought it'd be a good matchup. Then Waldo got on the mic and called for Curtis Blades, which I think that's obviously not as high a ranked opponent, but I think every bit as sensible of a call out and probably a more realistic one, if we're honest. So Waldo versus Curtis Blades will be a very interesting fight. Curtis was obviously looking to take him off his feet as soon as humanly possible, get him to the mat and just smash him with ground strikes. But yeah, I think Waldo's doing all the right things, right? He's saying yes whenever he picks up the phone. He's fighting anybody, and he's doing a good job. He's doing a good job. He was comfortably on top when Lewis had his little faux pas and hit the mat. So this wasn't an unfortunate case of a guy who was winning suddenly having bad luck before them. Waldo Cortes-Acosta was winning the fight. Lewis did not look 100% comfortable at any point, really, in that fight. So I do wonder whether he might have carried something into the fight, whether it be injury or illness or something. But I don't know. He just didn't seem like the real full beans Derek Lewis that we're used to seeing. But take nothing away from Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Did what he needed to do. He was already top 5. I think he needs to be looking at top 3 opposition, but we shall see what happens. The call out was for Curtis Blades. Would not be too unhappy to see that a little bit further down the line. But credit to Salsa Boy, who gets the big win at UFC 324. All right, there was a women's flyweight bout that came together very late, probably just a couple or 3 weeks out from fight night. Rose Namajunas was due to face Macy Barber. Macy Barber was then pulled from the fight card. At this time, I think we were understood it was injury. I don't think it was a particularly serious one because Macy's since been rebooked already for just a few weeks down the line. But it meant that Rose Namajunas needed an opponent on short notice. And remarkably, the top contender in the division, pretty much, Natalia Silva, was the one that got the call. She said, yep, I'll take that fight. And it was a fight that was really on a knife edge, I think, going into the last round. Natalia and Rose had a really, really close first round that you could make an argument that could have gone either way. Rose Namajunas, I think, clearly took the second round. So it meant that the pressure was really on Natalia Silva heading into that third and final round, not knowing for sure quite how that first round would be scored. But knowing for definite that she'd lost the second, there was no option but to go for it in the third round. She did. She did incredibly well as well. I think in a fight where you haven't had that level of opposition too frequently and your back's against the wall the way it was, you get to see a little bit more about, you know, what someone's made of as a fighter. And I thought Natalia showed up brilliantly in that last round, put on a really good last round, won the last round. And I scored it 29-28 to Natalia Silva. I gave her the first and third rounds in that fight. That is also how the judges scored that fight. So I feel vindicated on that front. My judge is not bad. I'm a TV judge, though. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll give it a go. Maybe I'll see if I can spend some time with someone like Ben Cartledge or someone like that, and maybe just shadow them for a show and try and do some scores next to them and just sort of see how they operate. It'd be fascinating to find out a bit more. I'm always interested by that side of the sport and what goes into actually judging an MMA fight, because they're taking notes all the time. When I'm doing it, I'm normally writing articles. I'm doing all sorts. I'm multitasking. So to sit and actually have one job, which is to analyze and score a fight on the fly with no technology normally to aid you. Fascinating to see. So yeah, 29-28 across the board for Natalia Silva, who now must surely be the next in line for a shot at the undisputed women's flyweight title. Valentina Shevchenko, all but clearing out the division, needs new faces to step up and challenge. And I think Natalia Silva has now earned those stripes. I think her wins had kind of done that already, but maybe the experience against top level opposition wasn't quite there. I think to beat someone like Rose Namajunas, I think that ticks that box now. Let's see her. Maybe International Fight Week would be the ideal. Valentina Shevchenko often featured during that sort of period of the UFC calendar. Natalia Silva featured on International Fight Week last year as well. I think that would be the perfect time to put that fight on in the height of the summer. International Fight Week, Brazil challenging Kyrgyzstan for the women's flyweight title. But really solid performance from Natalia Silva, who will hopefully from here go on and challenge for championship gold later this year. All right, and the main card kicked off with a featherweight fight that I just knew was going to be an absolute banger, and it turned out to be Gian Silva taking on Arnold Allen. How could this fight not deliver the goods? It was just on paper. It was written in the stars. This was going to be a great fight. And it was a great fight. Went back and forth. Allen looked great early on. Really did. First round in particular looked really, really solid. But as soon as Silva started to find his rhythm and start to land his shots, it was his punches that carried that little bit more weight and that bit more heft and sort of effectiveness in the matchup, and it was eventually him that got the judges' verdict 30-27, which I thought was a little bit wide. I didn't give him all three of those rounds. I thought Arnold Allen won the first round, but I think 29-28, 29-28 were the other two scorecards. That's how I scored it. I gave Allen the first round. I gave Silva 2 and 3, I believe, from memory. And it was Lord Gian Silva gets the job done. Very emotional guy. You see him. Well, I think we saw clips of him getting very emotional with the UFC Championship belt, actually holding the UFC Championship belt at some point during fight week and tearing up and being quite emotional. I've met and interviewed him over the last year. Met him and International Fight Week. He came to Media Row, and I had a chance to chat to him via the brilliant UFC translator Fabiano Buscay, who does such a great job. But when Fabio introduced him to me, and he explained to Gian that I'd done a feature on him and his team for the UFC magazine, rather than shake my hand, he just came running around the table and just gave me this massive bear hug, and he was just so grateful for being lifted up and given that sort of coverage, which was really nice. He's a very, very humble, down to earth guy, very grateful, very emotional, and you see that emotion when he fights. He's quite the spectacle to watch. Very, 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 very fun to watch. Had that absolute wild fight with Diego Lopez, which ended in him being knocked out in a fight that looked like he was going to be the one getting the knockout victory. Lopez eventually got the job done. I think it was a spinning elbow that did it from memory. He's now challenging again Alexander Volkanovski next weekend for the featherweight title. That could have been Gian Silva this, coming up this weekend. If he won that fight, I think Gian Silva would have got that title fight. So that's how close he was. So this was a really, really important fight for Silva. He couldn't afford to drop another loss and then fall into the pack. The featherweight division, absolutely loaded with talent. And you can just get sort of stuck in the mud a little bit. It's a bit of a quagmire you've got to fight your way out of. You can't, there's no easy path out of that 145-pound division. So to get the job done against a notoriously tough opponent, Arnold Allen has never been finished in his entire career, which is insane to think. And he's been in there with a who's who. So, and his only career losses have come to Movsar Evloev by decision, which there's no shame in that. And that was a fight that a lot of people thought he might have won. and Max Holloway in Kansas City in the main event. I was there for that one, and that was a fight that Arnold kind of let slip away a little bit. He could have won that fight had he stuck to the game plan a little bit. He just took his foot off the gas at just the wrong moment, and that effectively cost him the fight on the night. So he's that close. He's just that gnats, just below where he needs to be world championship class at 145 pounds. He can make that leap, no doubt about it. But losses like the one he just took on Saturday will be frustrating for him for sure, because he looked good early on and was competitive all the way through. But Silva just had that little extra 5% that he needed to get the job done. And I'm very, very interested to see how he gets booked next, because the featherweight division is not short of contenders. But there aren't many people as exciting as Lord Jan Silva. So we'll see how it goes. But great performance, great fight, by the way. Absolutely brilliant fight. That surely would have been the fight of the night had it not been for that main event. So those two lads sort of not getting the bonus money on this particular occasion. But yeah, it was a hell of a fight. And it was Silva that moves on and potentially puts himself in the mix for a shot at the featherweight title. So there are your results for UFC 324, Gaethje versus Pimblett. A really good fun night of fights at T-Mobile Arena. We had new bonus structures in place. These will carry through the year. Fight in the night and performance of the night used to be $50,000. They have now doubled $100,000 to those. Additionally, anybody who gets a finish who hasn't already won a bonus that night for fight of the night and performance of the night, they will also win a $25,000 bonus. So, based on that fight card, your bonus winners were, for fight of the night, Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett both take home an extra 100 G's in their back pocket. Performance of the night, 100 G's each. Josh Hockett and Ty Miller from the early prelims. Great to see. Finish bonuses, the other two finishers left on the card who hadn't already picked up a bonus, Waldo Cortes-Acosta and Nikita Krylov. They are your bonus winners for UFC 324. All right, there we go. UFC 324 in the books. Great event to kick off the UFC's 2026 schedule. And we haven't got long to wait for the next one. This weekend coming up, the Octagon moves from Las Vegas to Australia. Alexander Volkanovski taking on Diego Lopez in a featherweight title rematch, headlining Down Under. That will be this coming weekend. You can follow our coverage throughout the week on the RDX Sports blog, and we will have a preview podcast a little bit later in the week right here on the RDX Sports YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the fights this weekend. Have a good week. We'll speak to you in a few days' time.